What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Community Farm Alliance podcast. I'm your host for the Black and Berry series. My name is Vaughn Barnes. You already know me, but who you don't know is my guest. His name is Jeffrey Coles. Jeff is the founder of Thelma's Garden Education Academy. We met each other at the Kentucky Black Farmers Conference, and when he started telling me the story of this place and it blew me away, I said, you know what? I got to get you on this podcast. You might not be a farmer exactly, but you are somebody that people need to know. Jeff, tell them more about Thelma's Garden.
So actually, we are registered with USDA as an urban farm,
Right.
and farmers do work sometimes vertically, sometimes within a room or within several rooms of a building on the roof, or wherever we can grow. Thelma's Garden started in 2019, right before the pandemic. Um, as a retired teacher and a consultant with the state of Kentucky, I came to the conclusion that public education is just not working well for brown and black and low income and at risk students.
Right.
And, I could either at the beginning of my retirement sit on my back porch and just think about all the things I could have done, or I could do something in my last 30 or so years of life. And so I embarked upon the effort to establish an environment where students can learn, and all students can learn, and all students can learn at high levels. And that thus we started Thelma's Garden Education Academy.
You had mentioned that Thelma's Garden started because of a few people in your life. Tell me about that.
Absolutely. Now, my mother, and I am a mama's boy, but my mother was loved to garden. She had a green thumb. She could take any wilted or browning or dying plant and make it beautiful. However, my mother was absolutely um, phobically afraid of worms, and so my job as a child and my job even as an adult, and she passed away 5 years ago. But up until her death, my job was to till her garden and till the backyard area in wherever place we were living, so that she can get a nice sized garden. And she would grow, everything from tomatoes, cucumbers, cantaloupe, and that kind of thing. But she wasn't kind of the person that would just send me out to the garden to till. And we didn't have a rototiller with a motor. We had a shovel and we had a pick. And so the hard ground I would soften up with the pick, and then I would shovel, you know. And as I'm shoveling and as I'm picking, she's sitting out there on a bar stool. And the thing that I found magical about that was while she was out there on the bar stool, she was pouring into me the wisdom that I needed to take with me as I went into public spaces. She didn't take too kindly of getting notes from principals or getting notes from teachers. She valued it and she wanted us to be successful. So she would pour into us. When you're with this kind of people, you do this thing, and when you don't even fool with these kinds of people, and
Life lessons, right?
absolutely. Just life lessons. Our mother wit. Mother wit. Some people say you just have it, but I think to some degree it's transferable. That you watch the things that your ancestors do or did, which were successful, and you repeat it. And so that's what I believe that she was doing, is pouring into me. Teaching wasn't my initial occupation. I was a human resource person with Toyota, and so I was the person that you would go through the interview or go through the test with a Toyota. And so I had gotten, opening Toyota in Kentucky, we interviewed literally thousands of people. We've talked
Right.
to thousands of people and get a feel for people. And so as I was doing that, long story short, is I was very successful with that. I became the assessment center coordinator. I became the coordinator for the variable workforce at Toyota. But I came to a place where I felt like, look, I cannot see myself retiring doing this. I was not being fulfilled. And so I went to my boss at Toyota and I told him, listen, I cannot see myself retiring here. He said, what's wrong? And nothing's wrong. It's just that I'm not, there's something about what I'm doing that is less than what I should be doing. I thought he would say, listen, go and give me your 2 weeks notice and, go find your way, go do you. 2 years later, and he came and we met and we put together a plan to open an entity called the Center for Quality People and Organizations, CQPO. And this place was to teach Toyota's incremental improvement, our continuous improvement, as well as Toyota's quality management processes. And his role was to teach it to um, businesses or suppliers who wanted to do business with Toyota. And my role was to teach it to schools and organizations in the community. And so while I was in a school in Fayette County, actually teaching a group of principals Toyota's incremental improvement in an effort to improve their school success, one of the principals came to me and said, listen, if this stuff works, then you need to come to my school. His name was Clay Good. He was the principal at Lexington Traditional Magnet School.
So somebody found out about you doing this at Toyota, and then they asked you to come to a school?
Right, absolutely. Come to their school and help them improve their processes, help them improve their outcomes in the school. And he gave me a small contract.
Was
And
it after school program?
no, this was actually during school. What I did is I set up a office in his building,
Right.
and right next to his office down in LTMS, and I had an opportunity to observe the circumstance situation down there, particularly at the teachers and versus the students. Now the situation was that it was a magnet school. Students were interviewed and selected to go into the school, but the district had just made the decision that the students in the neighborhood who were urban students and were not interviewed to go into the school were allowed to come to the school without interview or without selection. And so the challenge that it caused was that, you had teachers who were prepared to teach magnet students. You had student magnet students who were looking for a creme de la creme education delivery. And you also had students who really didn't care um, what the delivery was because they didn't feel like they were part of the environment anyway. And on top of that, their parents were backing them tooth and nail or regarding their resistance to the acceptance that they were receiving in that school environment. And so consequently, students who don't care behave as though they don't care. So ultimately, you had significantly high suspension rates. You had teachers fighting students verbally. You had parents berating teachers and teachers giving it right back. And it was a social mess, so to speak.
Got it.
And so he asked me to come in and see what I could do to make that environment better.
Now, how did the whole garden start?
I selected the students who had the highest suspension rate, both in school and out of school suspension rate, and I decided that based on statistics, that 20% of the problems were caused by the 80% of the problems were caused by 20% of the people, and so I took the 20% of the worst behave or the highest suspension rate and behavior challenges, and I asked them if I could meet with them weekly, 1 hour a week, and they carved out that time in the student's day for me to meet with them.
Right.
And basically, what I did was did the same thing that my mother did with me. Um, I let them know that they had significant purpose. I let them know that their purpose was an expectation, not just of parents and school, but of the universe or of the world, of God, that they delivered their purpose. And I let them know that one of the reasons that they were going into the education environment was to gather the tools and resources they would need so that they could execute their purpose. And then I exposed them to local leaders, uh, bankers, politicians who looked like them. And then I exposed them to. We went on field trips to places that I know that they had never been. Long story short, that engagement, that care, that awareness of their purpose resulted in a significant reduction in their suspension, both in school and out of school. They also allowed them to, take the lead in activities that the school would put on. If the school would have an assembly, that the leadership team would be the ones to, to create the advertisement for it, as well as do the setup, and just made them have some ownership in their school.
How did that tie into the garden?
I married the whole connection between that and the garden after I had completed the consultant work with the state of Kentucky, and I could create my own environment. I knew that the thing that engaged me was the garden, because my mom had made me garden, and I felt like that same engagement would happen for them.
Did you know that CFA is a nonprofit organization that supports family farms, equity work, food access, and policy work across Kentucky? If you're interested in supporting any of this work, please go to cfaky.org and go to our Donate tab in order to donate or become a member today. We really appreciate any and all help that we get, and it goes back to helping both farmers and consumers across the Bluegrass State. For more information, go to www.cfaky.org. Once again, that's www.cfaky.org. Thank you. And now back to our show.
So how did that journey from a child to adult gardener help you with dealing with these children?
So one of the things that I noticed early on is that, because I stood in the free lunch line and waited for the truck to come to my neighborhood to bring me a bologna sandwich and an apple and an orange and a cup of milk, along with hundreds of other kids. I felt like that there was really no difference between them and me. The thing that was different is when I went home, I received one thing, and when they went home, they received another.
What was that thing?
I'm sorry?
What was that thing?
And the thing is that I was given an environment where I knew that I was accepted and I was loved, and that there was an expectation for me to produce some positive in the world. As I was gardening and nurturing plants and starting from seed and weeding and preventing bugs, making sure that the plants were nurtured and taken care of, that opened my eye to the role that I needed to play in life, that I am a bridge. I am a nurturer of people. So sometimes nurturing is not cuddling or coddling, but sometimes nurturing is setting boundaries and helping individuals to understand their role and why those boundaries are there.
Have you noticed a shift in your values since the pandemic has happened?
So not only the pandemic, but 9/11, Black Lives Matter, um, George Floyd's death, all of that has indicated to me that there is a reset going on in systems. And the whole idea is the things that are working in those systems will remain, but the things that are not working, it's an opportunity to correct. And our job is to utilize the skills and abilities and that we have accomplished over life to make sure that that correction occurs. So the pandemic has illuminated in me that there is a correction going on, um, and that it's very significantly uh, the expectation is significantly impactful, that
Gotcha.
we as men and women who have accomplished certain degree of success in life go back into those systems and make sure those systems are set up so that the people who follow us, who follow behind us, can have that same success. Because we were successful in spite of the system in many situations.
Right.
But there's a way that we could adjust those systems so that students could be successful because of those systems.
The original idea for your farm started from how your mother would treat you as a child, and you implemented the urban farm for the children because you knew that was the way to help them change their behavior.
And to understand the world around them. Yes.
Okay. With that much love for, or did you have love for the garden at that time?
Well, sometimes I did, and sometimes I didn't. There were times that I didn't want to do it. Just like any child, your parent tells you to go do something that in the heat
Yeah.
or the toil. You didn't want to do it. You didn't have a love for it. You didn't want to do it, and you didn't realize the impact that work. Even that resistance or you know, that push or that strain of not wanting to do it but doing it anyway, um, the impact that has on how you view life. Because from a very real perspective, there are things in life that you don't want to do. You don't want to get up in the morning and at 7 o'clock and shovel your driveway to go to work, in the snow. But
Yeah.
what you've learned is, or what I learned over time, is that while I didn't enjoy the bitter heat, when I yielded the harvest, when I picked the tomato, when I ate the cucumber, when I um, you know ate the cantaloupe or whatever that we grew, um, the satisfaction there will overshadowed the resistance that we might have had, going in. And so, excuse me, that word that comes to me as I think about, some of the outcomes that received from those experiences is resilience. And, students need to know and understand that, life isn't fair, that sometimes they get the shorter end of the stick, that the challenges are there because of the system that they're in, whether it be race or whether it be income or whether it be cognitive ability. They need to understand that life isn't fair, but but it wasn't fair when they had a roof over their head, and many kids in places both in this country and other countries don't. It wasn't fair when they got to walk to school when some child lost his legs or lost his ability to walk. So quit looking for this fairness, but learn to thrive in the face of the unfairness. And so take the unfairness, or take the uh, treatment, or take the even being called the N-word, and take it, rather than let those occurrences make me work against myself. What
Right.
I did is utilize those occurrences to propel me to work harder for myself.
Now, does that show up for the children when they're in the garden space with you, or do you see that show up after the garden? Like, how does
Well,
that end?
so the again, that process is what we call an iterative process. You know, if you've ever watched The Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi having the child wipe on and wipe off um, as he was cleaning the car, was not did not have an immediate result. But when that becomes a practice, when that ability to toil becomes a practice, day in and day out becomes a practice, don't quit becomes a practice. Um, the slight edge of winning in the face of significant challenges becomes a practice. Then at the end of the Karate Kid movie, when he needed it most, he had what he needed to be successful. And so we see that as an iterative practice. I see that as my students come back to me and say, Mr. Coles, guess what I'm doing now? Mr. Coles, guess who I am now? Guess where I've been now? And it's not, you know, to the graveyard, to the drugstore, or to the drug house. That lets me know that, that iterative process has taken effect in the lives of these young people.
So at Thelma's Garden, what is it that your students do there?
So there's several things. We have a hydroponic system. We have an aquaponic system of growing, and so students learn science by understanding the nitrates, the ammonia, the water composition that needs to be in place for the fish to live and thrive. Also, they learn that, very simple things that you would think, that seeds come from plants, the flower plants, and that they literally take the flower plants and pull the seeds from those plants and plant them and watch them grow and nurture them to grow. They learned the hydroponic and the aquaponic system, but then they learned to build raised beds. So we're cutting wood and we're building raised beds from wood and hammer and nails and saws. We learned the quality of soil. How, there's some soil that's mostly mulch-like soil, leafy soil, and then there's some soil that is real rich, dark soil, and then there's some soil that's some variation in between. We do experiments with soil. We grow some raised beds using mulchy soil. We grow some using rich black soil, and then some variation in between. And they see that the soil quality makes a difference. We are entering into this year greenhouse, a hothouse, or what we call hoop houses, where they're growing. It's outdoor, but it's under a hoop, and we're seeking at this point farmland so that we can have small patches of land that they can develop literally outside as a farm, in a farm space.
That hoop house, how did you guys get it? Was it a grant? Was it?
We have been made aware of a grant that will provide the dollars of 80% to pay 80% of that hoop house. And we have a couple of locations we're selecting from. We're just trying to get the approvals. We have identified potential spaces to set up the hoop house. It's urban setting. However, it's late. It's Fayette County, as you may know, has 10 miles in any direction, gives you enough space to call yourself having a farm, even though you're right right within the county space. And so, but we have to have approval to place the hoop house in that space. So we're seeking that approval.
Outside of your mom being your mentor, did you have any other mentors or any books or things like that that you recommended, not for you but for for the children?
Well, So I recommend these three books to the children because these are the books that have had an effect on me. The first one is the fable, "The Emperor's New Clothes." I think that it's important that they get to know and understand that whole fable. The second one is a book entitled "Makes Me Want to Holler" by Nathan McCall. Um, that that book resonated with me, and I think that students are sensitive and will listen to the wisdom that comes from out of his experience. And then the third, as I became older, that is college age, the third is "The Dance of the Fallen Monk" by Richard Fowler.
Okay.
And it has to do with a guy that tried to, live this very rigid life due to spiritual or religious reasons, and found that he couldn't, but also found that he didn't need to. That was something put on him that was not necessarily best for him, and so he lived his life with his purpose rather than the purpose that systems had tried to put on him.
This is the Blackberry series. I know we talked about this in Lexington, and everybody has spirit animals, or everybody's talked of spirit animals. So for the Blackberry series, my question for all my guests is, what is your spirit berry?
Now, when you talked about that before, it was an interesting question because I had never thought about it. But I still stand with my spirit berry is the strawberry. The strawberry is a resilient plant. It's a perennial. It comes back every year. It has the seeds grow on the outside of it, which means that it's ready to duplicate or replicate itself in the world. It's willing to endure the cold in the winter, but yet pops back every year. And yet it is a delectable tasting berry when grown appropriately. And so, I would say that the strawberry is the berry that I most resonate with.
So you guys market your salads.
Yes.
You make your salads, you market your salads. Is this also a business class for the young entrepreneurs in your
Yes, absolutely. There is an entrepreneurial aspect of the work, because not only do we have the beauty or the satisfaction of the harvest, but we also know that we can take this harvest and add value to it and market it so that we can receive profit as well. And students learn and operate so that they can accomplish that. They operate the sales aspect, the marketing aspect. They help identify through a mapping process, even potential clients that we need to sell through to. So
finish that, redo that line one more time. The mapping
okay.
problem.
So they go through, they participate in the sales aspect and marketing aspect. I mean, they put together marketing packages, and they also help identify the clients that we need to market our product to through a mapping process.
Any website, platform, phone number? Well, not phone
We
number.
do have.
I say website before phone number.
We have a website. It's being developed, so depending on when this comes out, depends on when. But we should have it by April 15th. We have a website. It's not. It doesn't properly deliver what we have going on because of a previous focus we had. It's Tea Gardens, TGARDENS Academy at .com. Tea Gardens thelmaacademy.com. You can reach us at 859-382-7486, or you can see us on Facebook.
All right, cool. Jeffrey Coles, everybody. Make sure you go check him out. It's Thelma's Garden Education Academy in Lexington, Kentucky. And that's it. And always remember, real change comes from the ground up.
Until
Until next time.
next time.
Peace.